Welcome to the Nest. I'm Trinity.
I'm Turner. I almost said Spooky.
And we're joined by
Dan.
Our
Hello.
Wonderful esports director who runs the entire program. So I guess I'll start. How did you find esports? Like, what made you want to do esports?
Yeah. So my journey into esports, I guess you could say, is unconventional, but with how everyone kind of gets into it, I guess it ends up being conventional. But so my background is in history and classical archaeology. So I went to school and learning how to, read old texts, write papers, and then I would dig in the summers. And when I graduated in 2015, 10 years ago, Overwatch either had just come out or it was in beta, but it was starting to surface.
Yeah.
And I was taking classes, not as part of my undergrad, but as what's called the post-bac program in Greek and Latin. And I was only taking 9 credits, so it was not very time-consuming. And whatever state Overwatch was in, it was out. And I was playing it, and I was terrible. And all of my friends were so much better than me. And by better than me, I mean they were like plat, and I was bronze. So, I really wanted to be better than them, or at least on their level. So with all my free time, and I was also working, I was waiting tables. So I'd go to class in the morning, do nothing from, whatever, noon to 3 p.m. And then I'd go to work. So I'd have like 3 or 4 hours every day that I would just play. And I didn't get anywhere for like a year. And then eventually, someone who was much better, at the time, whatever they were, GM, master, I don't know, it was like some unreachable rank in my mind, offered to coach me. And I took him up on that, and it completely changed how I viewed the game and how I played the game. And from that point, let's call it a month or whatever, 2 months, some arbitrary period of time, I went from my silver rank, and I climbed up to masters, and I loved it. I loved every second of it. And it was right around this time that I was like, I want to try coaching. So what I would do is I would just find bronze players, silver players that seemed to be, and people would post online that they were looking for coaching or something, and I wouldn't just solicit people. I would find people seeking it out, and I would do VOD review with them or coach with them, and I just loved that that dynamic of helping someone that does not know anything really about the game, right? And seeing these incredible strides, because at that elo, at that rank, the adjustments you make have gigantic impacts, and you see these huge leaps. And as obviously you work with better players, what you're correcting is much smaller, and the gains are also much smaller. So it was super rewarding to see these people that honestly, are going from not really thinking about the game to thinking, and you're seeing these awesome improvements. But anyway, I did that. I was working with individuals, and then I was like, I want to try coaching a team. So I joined a tournament that I don't think they run anymore, but they would they'd make teams, and I coached a team in that. It was a random bunch of people, and we lost in the finals, and it was so much fun. And I was like, but in my mind, I was thinking like, there's ways to do this better. And from there, I created my own organization. So, instead of trying to find another tournament, I just made a tournament. And we brought a bunch of the teams in from that other tournament to come participate in mine, and had some new ones. And basically what we did is we marketed it as a tournament for, low ranked players. I think you had to be under 3,000 SR, under Diamond. And what we would do is we take those players and we would then find coaches that maybe were newer to the game, or not newer to the game, but new to coaching. And you had to be like over diamond or over masters. And we would take them and put them with these teams of people that wanted to be coached. So the people that were new to the game could learn the team game, and people that were new to coaching had, fresh pupils to work with. And it scaled up really quickly. Eventually we were bringing in people that, wanted to learn how to do broadcast and production, to let them, we broadcasted every match. And then we brought people in that wanted to do tournament administration and like rules officiating. We brought them in and let them volunteer, and it became this big thing. And we, a few thousand people involved in the organization overall. And I was doing it as I was going to school, as I was working, and I did it for almost 2 years for free. And that brings us to, almost 2018 at the time. And it was right around when schools were starting to launch esports programs. I was like, I can get paid for basically doing the same thing I'm doing now, probably way less stressful. That was not true. It's equally as stressful, but at least I'm getting paid. And then, I decided to quit pursuing archaeology and classics, and accepted a job in New York to build and lead a program at a school there. And the rest just kind of snowballed, and here I am.
Okay. I think one of my questions is, what is a day like in your life? Just an average day for you. It could be a Wednesday, a Monday, a Friday, one of your weekends, just anything. What do you think would be your average day in your position?
Okay. I don't know if there is an average day, but I'll average out this month, October, just because, and I guess, sorry to give a tangent, but like if it's summer is way different than what I do in the fall, spring, during commencement's way different, especially when we're doing the high school thing, it is way different than what it's, but, if I had to have an average day, probably is, right around this time. So I'll get in to the office usually between 10 and 10:30, do the fun task of checking all my emails, trying to catch up on messages. Usually that, will be some hour to 90 minutes, whatever. I'll try to catch up on things. But then normally I'll have a meeting or two in the late morning, early afternoon. And then after that, I'll, more often than not, I'll have a prospective student call, one or two of those. Those usually last, 30 minutes each, 35 minutes each. And then as we start to get into the evening, we're pivoting into making sure, coaches have what they need for the matches, making sure that, if we have to reschedule or move something around, or, student B can't participate for whatever reason, I don't know, like just trying to figure out any kind of last minute things that pop up. We get that sorted, and then right now, and then this is kind of the thing that starts to change, is like, since we're competing and we're kind of in the we're neck deep into recruiting at this point, we're starting to do trials and recruit days and community days. So that will those have started to kind of come into my evening, and usually like 5 or 6 we'll have those start, and those will usually go until 8 or so. If we're not doing a trial, I'll probably sit in on a scrim or sit in on a match and just kind of hear how things are going. But yeah, that's kind of the October average day. Like I said, things change pretty quickly based on the month.
Yeah.
Okay, so my next question is, as someone who wants to go into the esports career field, what is your thoughts on the future of collegiate esports? And we've seen like programs being defunded and stuff like that. Where do you think collegiate esports is going to go in the next 5 years?
I don't think it's going anywhere. I think it will change, and I think it will evolve, but I don't think collegiate esports programs are going anywhere, because even if the worst possible scenario you could imagine with official funded programs happens, and they all get canceled or whatever, they all have to shut their doors. student-run clubs will still exist. So collegiate esports really isn't going to go anywhere. It's here to stay. But how it proceeds, I think there will be turbulence. I think one of the things that we're seeing, and this is conjecture, this is just kind of me thinking, so you can take it with a grain of salt. But many of the schools that are closing esports programs, for the most part, have a laundry list of other issues that esports are not a part of. Esports is not the reason many of these schools are closing their esports programs. The enrollment cliff is, or they're deeply in debt, or they're having bigger financial problems. At the very start of collegiate esports, many schools tapped into it specifically to do one main thing, but there are a bunch of little tentacles and side quests to it. But one main thing is recruitment and enrollment. How can we bring more students in? What's the latest fad? Oh, it's esports. Let's open a room and hire someone to run it. And they did that, and it is way easier said than done to recruit a full class, bring in a lot of students for esports. It's way easier to dream on that than to actually do it. And I think, these schools are, in a lot of ways, these smaller schools that are already struggling are throwing Hail Marys, and just trying to get something to work. And for them, esports was one of those Hail Marys, and it didn't solve all the problems, and the school has a ton of other things, and unfortunately, they got to make cuts, and esports is, in a lot of ways, probably a low-hanging fruit to do that. So, all of this terrible news that happens, but in a way, I think it's a correction, because I think, the schools and the programs that are set up to continue to be successful in the future, continue to drive their enrollment and have at least manageable finances, their programs will probably do well. I don't think we're in the period of time anymore where we're going to see this rapid growth and this snowballing of school after school starting programs and putting millions and hundreds of thousands of dollars into facilities. I think those will still happen, but I don't think we're in the heyday of it anymore. I think that's gone. So what is happening now is really a correction, or kind of more of an alignment of, all of that action over the past 5 years. So coming out on the other side, like I said, I'm sure there will be more programs that close their doors. I'm sure more programs will start, and the ones that are continuing to do well at universities that are doing well will probably continue to succeed.
I think my next question is over event logistics. Mm-hmm. Mainly just what goes into putting into like something like a LAN, or like what we do for our high school event. Yeah. It's kind of the process that goes in. I know we have our own process as the production staff, and then I just kind of wanted to think, what is the production, or what is the ideas behind putting on something like that in terms of your end of the spectrum?
It's a little bit of insanity. You have to be a little crazy to want to host those kinds of events. But I guess, are you more curious about like the behind the curtain logistics, or like the reasoning for
more or less the logistics? Okay. Like, cause I know there's like ESC. I don't think we have the scale to put on an ESC LAN.
We have.
Have we before? Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. Or I don't think I was here for that. But I know more or less, like, I understand like why. I kind of want to see like how it goes into effect.
So, again, this is kind of like the average day. Different events, different LANs probably come about and are put together in different ways. So I'll speak more specifically to the high school events that we've done. So normally there's an RFP that goes out, so a request for proposal, and in that, the true host of the event, right, the organization that's putting this event on will, ask questions about the space you want to use, the equipment you want to use, your plans for staffing, and in this case, broadcasting. And it's a lot of just surface level. How do you think this will go? What do you think it'll cost, et cetera? So you have to then go through this document and answer those things to the best of your ability. Usually they want a decent amount of detail. And then for us, what that means is, when we're using the Student Center, I've got to work with the Student Center, figure out exactly what spaces are available, get those booked, what's the capacity for spectators, all the room stuff. Then we have to go to IT and say, well, what's the possibility of getting a network switch and making sure that all these computers, once they're plugged in, can access the internet without too much interference from the university firewalls and security systems. So then it's getting that done. Then are we working with sponsors? Are they bringing peripherals and equipment in? How's that going to work? What are the dates that they're coming in? Who's going to set them up? What software needs to go on them? Are we not using those? Are we using our own equipment? Okay, how are we going to get that stuff over there? How are we going to set it up? And then, it's a bunch of little stuff along the way, like, okay, where can the schools park their buses? Do we have to get, approval for that? Do we have to work with parking? We have to update the campus PD about how many people we're going to have on campus. We have to work with dining. Hey, we're going to have 1,000 people on campus. Can you guys open up the Starbucks and Taco Bell kind of thing? And got to get that done. So it's a bunch of little dominoes that you kind of have to knock down individually. Unfortunately, nothing really knocks itself down in this analogy. You kind of have to tackle each individual small item. But ultimately, and then that's the hardest part. Ultimately, the easiest part is when the people just show up and play. Thankfully, we have kind of somewhat of a formula down now that it is true that when these high school students show up or arrive to actually, compete, that's the easiest part. Even though that in and of itself is stressful, that's the easiest part is when the actual tournament starts. It's everything leading up to that, making sure we have all the approvals, making sure we have all the equipment works, and, everybody's on board and understands what their assignment is. You have to meet with the electricians, right? There's just a lot that goes into the prep that, is pretty exhausting. So it's doing all those little things, working with all those individuals and offices to just make sure each individual piece is in place. So it kind of it takes me out in April. It's an exhausting month.
Okay. I have one last question and then a small one after that. What's your future vision for Ball State Esports? What future plans do you have for it?
I have a lot. So, it's my ideas are tiered in my head by what is possible, what's probable. One of the things that have stuck with me from archaeology is I remember I took this class, and it was my first archaeology class, and our professor was describing, how people go about assigning theories to events that have happened in history, right? You come across this ancient site of ruins, how can we figure out what happened here? And he broke it down into possible, plausible, and probable, right? So possible means, I guess in a world that could happen. Plausible is I can see the logic for that happening, but we don't know. And probable is that sounds like something that, has happened. So that's a long way of me saying I have several ideas and ambitions for the program, but I sort them with that mentality of possible, plausible, and probable. So, the possible side is, I would love to, get more funding and get, more upgrade equipment and really kind of add all the bells and the whistles that, the polish, right? But there are a lot more moving parts to getting enough money to do that than would make it probable. The plausible would be to continue to grow. And what I mean by that is, increasing our reach into other states and tap into other student bodies to bring more students into our program with varying interests, whether it's, production like this, or maybe competing in different game titles, or, more students for the club, and just kind of continue to grow that way. And then the probable is to, each year increasing the quality and the systems that we have. And it's not as flashy, but it makes my job easier. I think it makes the student experience a bit better when we have, each year a little bit better of a process to do X, or a little bit better of an understanding of how we'll accomplish Y. So it's like, those aren't the flashy things, but I think when you immediately go and try to get all the bells and the whistles and you don't have good roots and you don't have a good foundation, then that you're kind of creating a recipe for disaster there. So, I'm probably more of a vague answer, not very specific things, but I think those directions are the things I think about.
All right. So, my last small question, it's a silly question, but what's your favorite video game? You work in esports. What's your current favorite video game? Mm-hmm.
The one I have the most hours in right now is probably Microsoft Excel. But I don't know if I really have a favorite. I probably, Overwatch always has a place in my heart. But I don't play video games the way I used to, really. If I'm going to sink some time or some hours into a game right now, it's probably going to be college football 26. But if I had to just pick my favorite, probably I'll just go Overwatch for favorite overall. Yeah.
All right. Any more questions, Turner?
My main thing is, do you have any questions for us? I know we've been pestering you with a lot of stuff, but I don't know if you have anything specific you want to ask us.
How's the year going for you guys?
It's good. I personally have straight A's, so I'm doing good in that regard. Jefferson's class is kind of a walk, mainly just because it's Jefferson and he's very lenient with his grading processes. My history class is history. It's basically just take a test every few weeks, and that goes like that. I'm in quantitative reasoning. I have a friend who's a mechanical engineer, and he hates the fact that I'm taking quantitative reasoning because it's basically just what's the statistic of rolling a die and getting a 1? That's the gist of about what I'm doing. And I've taken calc, and I think I don't know why the credit isn't counting towards my math, because I personally don't think I need to be in this class, but that's kind of the gist. And then there's media law, which is nice. Love Terry. Terry's a great professor. And then I'm taking 204. I originally thought I was in the class with Trinity. I was not. I was there for about 2 days, just kind of existing. And then eventually the professor just kind of said what the class was and what it was about. And I was like, I don't think I belong here. And I looked at my schedule, and no, I didn't. And so I was not a part of that class at all. And I've been going to the right one now, which is Media 204. And that's good. I just turned in one of my first papers, and yeah, so keeping the grades high, and I've been enjoying my classes. I think media is where I belong. After changing my major twice, but I do enjoy media.
Yeah.
I think I've been diving myself into esports, especially this semester. So I've been trying to figure out, why is the TriCaster just flashing at us, or how can we get our entire setup in OBS in less than 2 hours and stuff like that. I was here this past Saturday just trying to kill time, and so I just troubleshooted for 8 hours straight on the TriCaster Saturday.
Why does it smell like it's burning?
What is that smell? Maybe if we turn it off, it'll be fine. But it's just been, I'm trying to just keep esporting. Distract myself from the outside world. Just, hey, I'm going to play Overwatch for the next 6 hours. We'll see where that goes. And stuff like that.
And eventually we'll get into prod plays.
Oh, prod plays.
Next
Just
week thing.
Yeah.
It's a next week thing.
planning,
Casey's got a lot on his plate.
planning for the 24-hour stream, which we just got the schedule finalized. We were in the back room for like 5 hours. And it's like, when you're there late, when Bordy is still there, because he plays till like 2 or 3 a.m. We're like, man, we were there that late. But yeah, I think, if anything,
I have nothing else.
I have nothing else. How about you?
Nope.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you guys for joining us on the first episode of the Nest of 2025.